Interesting stories out there, but yesterday after the media budget review there were a lot of confusion out there. Dari, are you beginning to understand this new tax measures that are being proposed?
We're hearing different theories, we are seeing different calculations and all of that. It's very difficult too.
I know.
But let me tell you something. What's for sure, consumers of various products and services are likely to bear the cost of new tax measures announced by the Minister of Finance in the media budget review yesterday. According to traders in some parts of Accra, their businesses are likely to be threatened by the new measures and they'll have no option than to pass on the cost to the consumer. Ebenezer Sabute has been engaging some of these traders and has come through with this report.
Some adjustments in the tax measures follow the inability of government to meet its revenue target for the first half of the year. To this end, the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, announced yesterday that some levies in the value-added tax will stand alone to help government maximize revenue from the process. In an engagement with some traders, they maintained that the cost effect will be passed on to the consumers.
The margin will be equal to what the government has brought out. The rates pay the same rate, even though we can see that the government is trying to trick us and in a way which we are all seeing. I mean, we don't have anything to do. We will just pass it on to the consumers.
So it means you are not going to absorb the cost alone. You are going to pass it on to people who buy stuff.
Yes, we can't absorb the cost alone. I mean, it should be inappropriate. The consumers must also feel the pressure, because doing business is not easy. Yes.
To me, it's not a big deal because right now the system is moving forward, so everything have to go up. So whilst you just know how to calculate your things, to sell your things, and your customers, you let them understand this is what they're going on, or they hear the news, they hear what is going on. When you at least you know how to talk to them, they will understand.
Others also think the policy will slow down sales if prices are passed on.
It will take a long time for them to sell, because when you increase the prices, the market slows down.
So even though you are going to increase it back, it will delay the process?
Yeah, it will delay.
Now that there have been increments, you have to also pass to the consumer, otherwise there is no way we are going to get our money and our profits.
So what will be the margin of increment? Is it going to be more than what has been increased at the port or wherever you are taking your goods from, or you add something in order to make profit?
We don't want to lose our customers, and we also think about our customers. Though there has been an increasement, but we are not going to increase that much for us to keep our customers and our relationship.
Consumers may have no option at this juncture than to brace themselves for another level of hikes in prices of goods and services.
Tech experts are calling on government to grant contracts to young entrepreneurs to help bridge the technological gap. Speaking at the launch of the Ghana Tech Summit in Accra, some industry players said outsourcing for tech skills is stifling the industry's growth.
Lack of funding and support for private tech firms were also highlighted. The Cyber City project, for instance, is currently concluding financing for the total budget of $2 million from a Chinese investor. When completed, the city will host over 400 tech hubs across Africa. The Cyber City will also have intelligent workspace as well as a data center. Despite measures to make Ghana a tech hub, Yao Owusu of the Ghana Cyber City said government should consider giving tax incentives to the few institutions spearheading the industry's growth.
There are lots of issues that government has. There are lots of projects that Ghana's government has. Instead of outsourcing them, some of these projects you're talking about, these guys are hacking and trying to do this and coming up with solutions that you're talking about within the conditions we're in. So it would behoove us to give these type of contracts to local people, or to make sure that when we get international contracts that are IT innovation, that we partner with some of these local bright ones so that they can learn and upscale. One of the things we're asking for is that the outsourcing of technology cannot be just for external or foreign players, but they should be local as well. And that takes everyone in every sector, from government all the way down to the grassroots.
With just 20% of women in technology globally, the summit will also discuss steps in bridging the gender gap.
One of the issues that big companies in Africa, and including Ghana, have is that there's not enough young people with tech skills. Okay, let's say programming, software development, and management of technology. That is lacking to a certain degree compared to, say, India and China. Right. And so private companies are now sort of entering the space to bridge that gap or to provide those services. So it is mostly driven, the investment actually driven by the private sector, but the government can do more. Right, by providing tax incentive, for instance.
The Ghana Tech Summit is a gathering of entrepreneurs, investors, digital marketers around the world to accelerate tech, innovation and economic development of the global startup ecosystem. The program will run yearly for the next 12 years in Ghana.
We see a lot of incubators and a lot of hubs popping up around Ghana and across the continent, but we don't necessarily see a lot of training programs and a lot of institutions focusing on tech training and focusing on entrepreneurship. So I think that's been our biggest challenge, is making sure that we're able to find that skill gap, and we have the right people in place to help these techpreneurs not only know how to code and understand business, but be able to put that together and actually launch a business.
Okay, so
some tech news still. An Academic City College, a technology and entrepreneurship training institution, says it has invested $2.2 million to provide a conducive learning environment for students. Speaking to Joy Business at the Ghana Tech Summit organized here in Accra, President of the college, Professor Fred Magbanluri, said this technology equipment, would provide students with the technical know-how which would be directly transferable to industry.
This is a great space to be in, and given that Africa is going to have the youngest people, the great demographic dividend of Africa demands great spaces for its kids to work out of.
Academic City College says the country lacks high-tech equipment, a situation that leaves students redundant after graduating from school. According to some statistics, majority of students who complete school are not innovative, hence depend heavily on government or private institutions for jobs. But speaking to Joy Business, President of Academic City College, Professor Fred Magbanluri, says the $2.2 million investment seeks to provide students with hands-on training.
We have invested $2.2 million in equipment for our labs. We have end of spectrum technology for CNC machines, we have lathe machines, we have gear hobbing machines, and these are not just educational tools. We are not just buying teaching aids. We're actually buying industrial level equipment so that whatever practical experiences our science and technology students experience is directly transferable to industry. We have course specific labs, so if there's a mechanical engineering lab or a mechanics lab or a materials lab, you have dedicated infrastructure to do that.
On her part, former chief executive of telecommunication company Airtel, Lucy Quist, urged the public to embrace technology.
I think that what I can do, what you can do, what we all can do is that as citizens of Ghana and people of Ghana, how do we demonstrate to our policymakers, our lawmakers, our leadership that actually this is something of importance to us? Because remember that the response is to what we demand, and we need to demonstrate that we are actually interested in our children participating more in STEM. That's one. The second thing is that we ourselves need to do more to get our children on the path.
In another development, Head of Products and Services at Vodafone Ghana, Victor Banaman Chedid, says the only way the cost of internet data can become affordable is when it becomes accessible nationwide.
Coming from an industry perspective, I think that there are certain things that have to happen in order for us to be more affordable. But I mean, it's interesting. You've just given me an opportunity to talk about the fact that an organization such as my own actually goes the extra mile to find different ways to make internet or data accessible to a wider group of people.
The Ghana Tech Summit, in collaboration with academic cities, seeks to launch Ghana as Africa's future tech hub.
You're watching Business Live. We are taking a short break. Sunday we'll be back with the conversation around the National Mortgage and Housing Finance Scheme announced in the Media Budget Review. Stay with us.
Welcome back. And government yesterday announced a national mortgage and housing finance scheme to start in August. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, who stated this during the media budget review, said a national housing and mortgage fund will be set up to provide construction and mortgage financing for the project. Will this actually be possible? Well, Charles Haite is currently at Osu and joins me live. Charles, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you live and clear.
Okay, so
Sandra,
tell me why the housing sector
issues related to.
Yes, Charles, I was asking, tell me why the housing sector is so important to Ghanaians.
Well, it's very important. You know, we're having a housing deficit of over 2 million, in number. It's very huge and it's very worrying in that very regard. 1 in every 5 Ghanaians statistically, does own a house. The remaining 4 would either have to purchase with a friend or even have to rent at very high prices. So it's really, really of a huge importance to Ghanaians on the streets here today.
Okay, so we know the finance minister has been actually proposing some new measures to bridge the housing gap. And I know also that we already have the affordable housing project. Just take us through the new measures and how different that will be from the affordable housing project.
Well, it's all based on the Singaporean model, based on what we do learn from the media budget review that was presented by the finance minister. Apparently, what they are seeking to do is to expand and have a specific board that's going to, be termed as the Mortgage and Home Financing Board that will oversee the reasons why previous projects, housing projects have not done well and the best ways by which they could adjust to ensure that things work well this time around. Beyond that, we're also learning that, of course, the finance ministry we're putting together some kind of a renting scheme, a bed renting scheme for the underprivileged, those who live on $1 a day, and other people who are just not economically there in our part of the country. So much going on by this current administration. We're just hoping to see how things pan out, and of course whether or not these interventions actually have an impact on the ordinary Ghanaian on the streets. But we have been interacting with some Ghanaians. We went to Osu. We are currently at Ridge, but we visited Osu to interact with some Ghanaians.
And what have they been saying?
The whole feeling about government keeps promising. The whole feeling about government keep promising us. We don't see anything happening. The houses are there, but we don't get to, occupy these homes. So stark concerns in the minds of Ghanaians. Often, many of them are even just not willing to talk to us on record. But you could gather this whole feeling that things are just not being convincing enough for the average Ghanaian on the streets with regards to issues of housing.
It's quite interesting, Charles. So what I understand from what you're saying is that if you do not have a home and you sleep on the street, with this new scheme for the rental purposes, you can actually go one night, rent, sleep and go back. Is that what it's going to be like?
That's the interesting intervention that government is currently rolling out. Sandra, we're yet to see how things work out, because if you're having a housing deficit of 2 million, remember that all the number of the homeless people, those below the minimum, the low income brackets and everything, are even yet to be accounted for. If 2 million is indeed the exact figure that we're talking about and the others not yet accounted for, we could be experiencing a burst in terms of the demand for these housing units and the bed rental system as well.
Thank you very much, Charles Haite, for the analysis there. And also, we have been talking about de-dollarization of the housing sector. What's happened to that? The issue has to do with, making it more affordable, hence the affordable project. But what's happened to that? Well, we want to wait and see what government will be doing with regard to this new housing proposal. Now, let's move on to do some stories. And how well do you understand the fact that Ghana is going to mortgage its pensions and also bauxite for a 10 billion loan for infrastructure development? Well, Odelia, Norvan, and Philip simply breaks this down.
Hi, and welcome to OPN, breaking the business news down. OPN simply is Odelia,
P for Philip,
and N for Norvan. Okay, so now let's get the story out, or the issues out. Now, Philip,
yes,
exactly what would you be talking about today?
Okay, I'm going to look at the National Mortgage and Housing Finance Initiative. What exactly is it, and what can we learn from this?
Okay, so Norman, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at the bauxite that we have found and the fact that we are mortgaging that against development.
All right, so go ahead.
Okay, so Delia, very simply and very quickly, imagine these 3 caps are 3 different entities. 1, potential homeowner. 2, lender of a mortgage like a bank, and 3, pension fund manager. What we are understanding is that we are going to use pension funds to invest in entities like banks that give out mortgages, which will in turn give this to potential homeowners.
So if people do not pay for their mortgages, then what happens?
Then it's the same cycle. If you don't pay, the bank doesn't get their money, and then they can't give back their returns to the pension fund.
It means that the pension fund is really going to suffer, isn't it?
Yes, that's why it has to be structured properly or appropriately, so that nothing negative happens to our pension funds, so that come retirement age 60, Odelia, Norvan and I will have something to fall back on.
Yeah, we could take a vacation. Now, Norvan, go ahead. Explain what really happens with this bauxite thing that we are sort of going to hedge or mortgage in order to be able to have our infrastructural development.
Okay, so very simple. These are 3 mobile phones that we're going to be using. Ghana has all the money and all the resource, that is the bauxite. And then Ghana went to China and said, look, I have bauxite, so I need money for development. So they go to China. China may decide that they need this bauxite. And so we decide to even send a company from China itself. So the company comes to the middle. So Ghana is going to be taking money from them. And the simple thing is that we need this money to be able to do development, and we're going to take pressure off the budget, the fiscal budget. That's what it means. So you give, Ghana goes to China for the money, and then the company comes to mine. Ghana agrees that when you mine, on the nominal values, in terms of what will be the value of what you put out there, when you've extracted the bauxite, processed it into aluminum, we take 40%, and that 40% out of which we use part of the money to pay for the loan that you have taken from China.
Simple. So we have resources. Let's just go and take a loan and then get a company to come and mine. We share the money. What Ghana gets, it uses it to pay for the loan that it took from China for infrastructural development. These were the 2 issues, big issues that were in the budget. Well, that is definitely the breakdown. My name is Odelia.
My name is Philip.
And I am Norman Akwe.
OPM, breaking it down.
Do you know what I call them? The 3 musketeers.
Thanks so much, Norvan, Odelia.
Yeah, very
and
insightful
Philip,
there. Very insightful. Unfortunately, we have to come to the end of the program. Thanks for watching Business Live. There's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business.
And we'll see you on Monday.
Yes, be good. Take care.
My name is Sandra Peno.
And mine is Darko.